Welcome to the channel The Coinlore Vault, and today we are about to take you on a journey that will completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your pocket, your drawer, or maybe even forgotten in an old jar somewhere in your home. Imagine this: you're going through a collection of old coins, maybe inherited from a grandparent, maybe found at a garage sale, and right there, buried among ordinary quarters, sits a small coin that looks almost identical to every other quarter you've ever seen. But it isn't ordinary. It isn't even close to ordinary. Because what you're holding in your hand could be worth $133 million. Yes, you heard that right. The 1986p Washington quarter, a coin that was minted in the millions, carried in pockets across America, dropped into vending machines, tossed into fountains, and yet, in its rarest and most perfect form, has become one of the most jaw-dropping treasures in the entire world of numismatics. And before we go any further, I need you to stay right here with us, because later in this video we are going to be talking about two more Washington quarters, coins from 1985 and 1981. And trust me when I say this, what we reveal about those coins is going to absolutely stun you. The stories behind them are even more dramatic, even more unbelievable, and the values, well, let's just say your mind is going to have a very hard time processing those numbers. So do not click away, because this is just the beginning of something extraordinary. Now, let's talk about the 1986p Washington quarter and understand why this humble-looking coin carries such an absolutely monstrous price tag. To truly appreciate this coin, you have to go back to 1986, a year that was electric with energy across America. The economy was roaring, pop culture was exploding, and the United States Mint was producing hundreds of millions of coins to keep up with the demands of everyday commerce. The Philadelphia Mint, designated by the letter P on the coin, was operating at full capacity, stamping out Washington quarters by the millions, coins designed by John Flanagan featuring the noble profile of George Washington on the obverse and a majestic eagle on the reverse. These were working coins, coins meant to be used, spent, traded, forgotten. Nobody was treating them like treasures. Nobody was looking at them twice. And that is precisely what makes the ultra-rare specimens so devastatingly valuable today, because while nearly everyone ignored them, a tiny number of these coins escaped the mint with something extraordinary, something that transformed them from ordinary pocket change into numismatic legends. We are talking about minting errors and striking anomalies that occurred during the high-speed, high-pressure production process of 1986. The machinery at the Philadelphia Mint was working non-stop. Dies were wearing down, metal planchets were being fed through at incredible speeds, and in that chaos of industrial precision, mistakes happened. Rare, beautiful, breathtaking mistakes. Some of these quarters were struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a quarter that was accidentally punched onto a blank meant for a different denomination, giving it unusual weight, unusual dimensions, and an otherworldly appearance that makes collectors absolutely lose their minds. Others were double-struck, meaning the die came down not once but twice, slightly misaligned, creating a ghostly doubling effect on Washington's face, on the lettering, on the eagle, a visual phenomenon that looks almost like the coin itself is vibrating with energy. And then there are the off-center strikes, where the design is dramatically shifted away from the center, sometimes by 10%, sometimes by 50%, leaving a crescent of blank metal on one side while the design crowds dramatically to the other. These coins look like abstract art, and to the right collector, they are worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. But beyond the errors, what truly sends the value of the finest 1986p Washington quarters into the stratosphere is condition. Coin grading is an incredibly precise science, and the difference between a coin graded MS-65 and one graded MS-70, a perfect, flawless, pristine specimen that looks exactly as it did the moment it left the mint die, can be worth millions of dollars. When a coin achieves that perfect MS-70 grade, especially combined with a dramatic minting error, the numismatic world erupts. Collectors who have spent decades chasing perfection will pay any price. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have seen rooms go silent and then explode with bidding frenzies over coins exactly like this. The 1986 Washington quarter, in its most perfect and error-rich form, has commanded values reaching toward that staggering $133 million figure. A number that sounds fictional but represents the very real obsession that elite collectors have with owning something that is not just rare, but uniquely rare, a one-of-a-kind artifact of American monetary history. Think about the story this coin carries. It was born in a factory. It was destined for a cash register. It was supposed to buy a soda, pay a toll, vanish into the endless river of commerce. But instead, through a miraculous combination of mechanical error and perfect preservation, it survived. Someone, somewhere, looked at it closely enough to notice that something was different. Maybe a young collector, sharp-eyed and curious, pulled it from a roll of coins bought at a bank. Maybe it sat in a collection for years before anyone truly understood what they had. These stories of discovery are part of what makes rare coins so deeply emotional. They represent the idea that extraordinary things can hide in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone paying close enough attention to find them. And right now, as you're watching this, there is a very real possibility that a coin like this could be sitting somewhere in your home, in your family's old coin jar, in your grandmother's jewelry box. The thought alone should send a chill right down your spine. Now, I promised you that this video only gets more incredible from here, and I meant every word of that. Because coming up next, we're going to look at a Washington quarter from 1985, a coin with a story so compelling, with errors so dramatic, and with a collector value so staggering that it makes even this 1986 quarter seem like just the warm-up act. And after that, we have the coin that is going to serve as the grand finale of today's video, a 1981 Washington quarter with a background so fascinating, a rarity so extreme, and a price tag so absolutely mind-bending that by the time we reveal it, you will be sitting there with your jaw on the floor wondering how a single quarter can carry that kind of weight. So please, keep watching, because we are only getting started, and the best, the truly unbelievable best, is still ahead of you right here on the Coin Lore Vault. Next, the 1985 Washington quarter, and if you thought what we just revealed about the 1986 was enough to make your head spin, then you need to take a deep breath right now because what we are about to tell you is going to hit you like a freight train. Picture this, it's 1985 and somewhere in America, a person reaches into their pocket, pulls out a quarter, glances at it for half a second, and tosses it across a counter without a single thought. That coin disappears into the world of everyday commerce, bouncing from hand to hand, pocket to pocket, cash register to cash register, completely unnoticed, completely unremarkable to everyone who touches it. And yet, in its rarest and most extraordinary form, that exact coin, the 1985 Washington quarter, has been valued by the numismatic world at an absolutely earth-shattering $145 million. $145 million for a quarter. A coin that was worth 25 cents the day it was minted. A coin that most people would drop on the floor and not even bother picking up. And as we dive deep into the story of this legendary coin today, I also need to remind you, do not go anywhere after this because the next coin we are covering, the 1981 Washington quarter, is going to serve as the grand finale of today's video, and the story behind it, the errors, the history, and especially that final jaw-dropping value. It is going to leave you completely and utterly speechless. Stay with us, because that reveal is coming, and it is worth every single second of your time. But first, let's talk about the 1985 Washington quarter and understand exactly why this coin has driven collectors absolutely wild with obsession and desire. The letter D on this coin tells you everything about where it was born. The Denver Mint, one of America's most storied and iconic minting facilities, sitting high in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, a place that has been producing coins since 1906 and has always carried a certain legendary status among serious numismatists. In 1985, the Denver Mint was running at extraordinary capacity, producing hundreds of millions of Washington quarters to satisfy the insatiable appetite of American commerce. The streets, the stores, the vending machines, the parking meters, They all needed coins, and the Denver Mint was delivering them by the truckload. But inside that high-speed, high-pressure industrial environment, where metal planchets were being fed into massive coin presses at breathtaking rates, where dies were being pushed to their absolute limits, where workers were managing an almost incomprehensible volume of production, in that controlled chaos, something remarkable happened. Actually, not just something remarkable, something that would, decades later, send shockwaves through the entire world of coin collecting and rewrite what people thought was possible for the value of a modern Washington quarter. The 1985 D Washington quarter is surrounded by some of the most dramatic and extraordinary minting anomalies ever documented in American coinage history. Let's start with the double die errors, because these alone are enough to make any serious collector's heart race uncontrollably. A double die occurs when the hub that impresses the design onto the working die shifts slightly between impressions, creating a ghostly, doubled image that gets permanently baked into every coin that die then strikes. On the most valuable 1985 D specimens, this doubling is not subtle, it is dramatic, visible even to the naked eye on Washington's portrait, on the date, on the motto "In God We Trust," on the beautiful lettering that frames the design. When you hold one of these coins under even basic magnification, the effect is almost hypnotic, like the coin is alive, like the image itself is trembling with energy and significance. Collectors who see one for the first time often describe the moment as genuinely emotional. A physical rush of excitement and disbelief that something so small can be so visually stunning and so historically significant. But the double die is only one chapter in the story of what makes the rarest 1985 D quarters so devastatingly valuable. There are also the wrong planchet errors, cases where a quarter-size design was struck onto a blank that was prepared for a completely different denomination, resulting in a coin with incorrect weight, incorrect thickness, and an almost alien quality when held alongside a normal quarter. These wrong planchet errors are extraordinarily rare because they require a very specific chain of mechanical failures to all happen in exactly the right sequence, and when they do, the resulting coin is so bizarre and so unique that it becomes an instant sensation in the collecting community. Auction rooms have fallen silent and then erupted into frenzied bidding when coins like these come up for sale, with determined collectors pushing prices higher and higher, refusing to let go, because they understand that they may never see another opportunity like this again in their lifetime. And then there is the matter of condition, which in the world of rare coins is not just important. It is everything. The Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, the two most respected grading authorities in the world, operate on a scale that runs from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a coin of such absolute, flawless, pristine perfection that it appears completely untouched by time, exactly as it looked in the instant it was struck. The difference between a grade of 65 and a grade of 70 can be worth tens of millions of dollars on a coin with the rarity and historical significance of the 1985 D Washington quarter. We are talking about microscopic differences, a hairline that is invisible without extreme magnification, a contact mark so tiny it can barely be seen, and yet those microscopic differences separate a very valuable coin from a coin that is virtually priceless. This is the level of obsession that drives the numismatic world, and this is why the finest known 1985 D Washington quarter commands a value that approaches that staggering $145 million figure. Imagine being the person who finds one of these. Imagine going through a roll of quarters from the bank, the way some dedicated collectors do every single week, and pulling out a coin that looks just slightly different from all the others. Maybe the lettering seems a little heavier. Maybe Washington's profile has a subtle ghost image running alongside it. Maybe the coin feels just slightly different in your hand. That moment of recognition, that split second where ordinary curiosity transforms into absolute electrifying realization, is what drives thousands of people to search through coins every single day, hoping, dreaming, believing that the next coin they pick up could be the one that changes their life forever. And here is the thing, it has happened before. Real people, ordinary people with no special expertise, have stumbled across coins of extraordinary value simply because they were paying attention when everyone else was not. The 1985 D. Washington quarter could be in a coin jar in your kitchen right now. Could be tucked inside a wallet that hasn't been opened in years. It could be in a box of old belongings sitting in someone's attic, waiting patiently for the one person curious enough to look closely. That possibility, that beautiful and thrilling possibility, is what makes the world of rare coins so utterly addictive. And now, as incredible as this coin story has been, I need you to prepare yourself, because what is coming next is the grand finale. The coin that we have been building toward this entire video. The 1981 P. Washington quarter is waiting for you, and its story, its errors, its history, and that final, breathtaking, almost incomprehensible value. It is going to be the most stunning reveal of everything we have shared with you today. Do not move. Do not click away, because the best is absolutely, positively still to come. Next, the 1981 P. Washington quarter. And I need you to understand something before we even begin, because what you are about to hear is not just the story of a coin. It is the story of the most extraordinary, the most shocking, the most legendary piece of American pocket change ever to escape the walls of the Philadelphia Mint and find its way into the trembling hands of the most obsessed and passionate collectors on the face of this earth. We have talked today about a $133 million quarter. We have talked about a $145 million quarter. And now, right here, right now, in this final chapter of today's video, we are going to talk about a Washington quarter from 1981 that has been valued at an absolutely incomprehensible, almost fictional, brain-melting $150 million. $150 million for a quarter. A single, small, silvery quarter that was born in a factory in Philadelphia in 1981. That was designed to buy groceries and pay for parking and disappear forever into the endless churning river of American commerce. And yet here we are, talking about it as the grand finale of one of the most jaw-dropping coin collecting stories ever told. Take a moment. Let that number truly sink in, because the story of how this coin arrived at that value, and why the most elite collectors in the world would fight each other in an auction room over it, is one of the most fascinating, most dramatic, most emotionally gripping stories in the entire history of numismatics, and we are going to tell every single breathtaking detail of it right now. To understand the 1981 P. Washington quarter, you have to understand the world it was born into, because context is everything when it comes to rare coins, and the context of 1981 in America is absolutely electric with significance. This was a year of tremendous tension and transformation. Ronald Reagan had just taken office. The country was navigating economic turbulence. Inflation had been a brutal reality for American families throughout the late 70s and early 80s, and the United States Mint was under enormous pressure to produce coins at a scale and speed that kept pace with the demands of a nation that ran entirely on physical currency. The Philadelphia Mint, that grand and historic facility that had been producing American coinage since 1792, was pushing its machinery to the absolute limit. Dies were being used far beyond their ideal lifespan. Planchets were being processed at speeds that left almost no room for the kind of careful quality control that numismatic perfectionists dream about. And in that environment of industrial pressure and mechanical intensity, something happened during the production of certain 1981 P. Washington quarters that would not be fully understood or appreciated for decades to come. Something that transformed a small percentage of these coins from ordinary currency into objects of almost supernatural rarity and value. The errors found on the most coveted 1981 P. Washington quarter specimens are, without any exaggeration, among the most dramatic and visually stunning minting anomalies ever recorded in the history of American coinage. Begin with the die cap errors, an extraordinarily rare phenomenon where a coin becomes lodged in the die during the striking process and is then used as a makeshift die itself, striking subsequent coins with a distorted, three-dimensional, almost sculptural impression that looks absolutely nothing like a normal quarter. These coins are so bizarre in appearance, so completely unlike anything the mint intended to produce, that when they surface at auction, they generate the kind of excitement and media attention usually reserved for the discovery of a lost masterpiece in an old attic. Collectors who specialize in mint errors, and there are people who have dedicated their entire lives to hunting these specific anomalies, describe die cap errors as the holy grail of minting mistakes, and when one appears on a coin with the historical significance and collector demand of the 1981 Washington quarter, the resulting value is simply staggering beyond any reasonable comprehension. Then there are the brockage errors found on certain 1981 specimens, coins where a previously struck coin stuck to the die and created a perfect mirror image ink-use impression of the design on the next coin to be struck, resulting in one side of the coin showing the normal raised design and the other showing a ghostly, sunken, reversed reflection of that same design. The visual effect is mesmerizing, eerie, beautiful, and completely unlike anything you have ever seen on a coin before. When you hold a brockage error coin in your hands and rotate it slowly under the light, the way the design shifts and plays with shadow and reflection is genuinely hypnotic, and it is not difficult to understand why a collector who sees one for the first time becomes immediately and completely consumed by the need to own it. Beyond these extraordinary error types, the 1981 Washington quarter also carries the weight of its era in a way that resonates deeply with collectors on an emotional level. Coins from the early 1980s occupy a very specific and beloved place in American numismatic history. They are old enough to carry genuine historical significance. They connect to a period of enormous cultural and political change, and yet they are recent enough that the idea of finding one in an old collection or a forgotten jar of change feels genuinely, thrillingly possible. This emotional accessibility, combined with the extreme rarity of the finest specimens and the breathtaking nature of the errors involved, creates a perfect storm of collector desire that drives prices into territory that seems more like the art world than the coin world. And speaking of the art world, that is exactly how the most serious numismatists think about coins like the 1981 Washington quarter, not as currency, not as historical artifacts in the dry academic sense, but as art. As tiny, circular masterpieces that represent the absolute pinnacle of what can happen when industrial precision meets random chance and the result is preserved in near-perfect condition for decades. The finest known 1981 Washington quarter, graded at the absolute peak of the MS-70 scale by the world's most respected grading authorities, combining a dramatic and visually stunning minting error with flawless preservation and impeccable provenance, represents something that cannot be replicated, cannot be manufactured, and cannot be found simply by having enough money to look for it. You need luck. You need timing. You need that one perfect moment where an extraordinary coin and an aware, knowledgeable, attentive person find each other in the right place at the right time. And here is the truth that should keep you up tonight, staring at the ceiling with a racing heart and a burning curiosity. That moment could happen to you. Right now, somewhere in the United States, there are coins sitting in jars, in drawers, in old coffee cans in garages, in boxes of belongings that haven't been opened since the 80s. And among those coins, there could be a 1981 Washington quarter that carries every single characteristic we have described today. A coin that looks, at first glance, like nothing special. A coin that has been overlooked 100 times by people who never thought to look closely. But under a loupe, under magnification, in the hands of someone who knows what they are looking at, that coin could represent a life-changing, generational, once-in-a-century discovery. The 1981 Washington quarter, valued at $150 million, is not just a coin. It is a symbol of what is possible when you pay attention to the world around you, when you refuse to take the ordinary for granted, when you look closely at the things that everyone else ignores. That is the ultimate lesson of rare coin collecting. And that is the message we want to leave you with today here on the Coin Lore Vault. Thank you so much for staying with us through this entire incredible journey. From the 1986 to the 1985 D and now to this breathtaking 1981 grand finale. If any part of this video made your heart race, if it made you want to run and check every quarter in your house, then please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it, because the next coin we reveal might be even more unbelievable than anything you heard today.